Welcome back, my friends. Today we are going to draw and paint a creepy haunted house. So get out your art supplies and keep watching if you dare. For this project, you will need an 8x10 canvas, acrylic paints, gloss gel medium, a paper plate, and a disposable cup. You will also need paintbrushes and a palette knife. I also recommend that you purchase the larger tubes of ivory black and titanium white. I'm going to show you a trick today that has helped me with perspective. I want you to take your Sharpie marker and put a dot on your tape. Notice how I put a little strip of tape a little to the left of my canvas. Now my canvas is not going to move. It's going to stay right here. And the trick that I use to make sure that my lines are correct is I take that yardstick and I use this to position the angle of my lines as I work. So what we're going to do is you take your reference photo, or you can just watch me do mine, whatever you want to do. Either way works. And you're going to mark, just some areas of the building. And so this is the top, and I'm going to freehand the top of the structure. And then from there, come down a little ways so we could draw part of the roof. And this is a haunted house, so your lines honestly don't have to be perfect. Here's the main part of the house. This is the middle section, and it's the tallest section. Okay, and I've just drawn that in there. What you're going to do is put a dot here, as well as the one that you already had. And then what we want to do is to draw a line coming straight down. And if you want, you can use a smaller ruler for that. Like if you feel like, hey, I cannot freehand, I want you to take your ruler and just draw a line straight down like this. Okay, we'll go about that far down. From this area, we will draw the next section of the house. Okay, and so just make sure that your ruler lines up with the outer edge of the canvas. Okay, so you're going to come down from there. You're going to do another line over here. And if you line up, with your canvas from top to bottom, side to side, you can generally get the right angle. But I'm just having my horizontal lines be parallel with the canvas. I think that's easier. Okay, so here's the main section of the house. I'm going to do another line that's parallel to that one that's a little bit longer. And again, you can use your ruler if you want. I'm going to do a slanted line on each side, like that. And then from here, you're going to carry that line for the main part of the house down to about right here. And then do the same on the other side. Okay, and then from here we have both sides of the house, on the left and on the right, that we need to draw. So let's start with the roof, and the roof extends out to about here. I'm going to have some of it fade though, because I want to do some trees over here. You're going to draw a line here and also here. And if you're a beginner, just follow mine. You don't need to try and figure this out on your own with your own reference photo. Okay, so from there, we are going to draw another line coming down on both sides on a diagonal. Okay, this one will disappear. So you can start to draw it and then just have it go off. And then we're going to do the line at the bottom. And if you want to get mathematical and you want to measure everything out perfectly, that's totally fine. But honestly, for a haunted house, I don't worry too much about that. From here, you're going to draw a straight line down again. So just line it up with the corner and come down. And then on the other side, I wouldn't even worry about that actually. Don't even worry about that side because again, we're going to do trees. In fact, we can just sort of draw that in, okay? Because we're going to make this haunted house super spooky by adding shrubbery. So that's marked off with that. From the porch, you want to come in just a little bit from the roof and draw a straight line down. Can you see that? And then do another one. It comes down like this. Okay, and that's the railing. And then come over here and do the same thing. You come in a little bit, straight line down, but the shrubbery is covering that, so you don't have to go all the way down. And then draw that line. Okay, and so you can see that that's the entrance to the house. Again, we're going to keep this fairly simple because it's spooky. So draw a line at the bottom right here. We are also going to have some shrubbery around this area, okay? So let's get that drawn in so that we don't have to worry about that part of the house to simplify things. I might even have some right here, okay? And so really quick, go through and I want you to erase the extra lines within the shrubbery. Okay, so now we have our basic structure and I'm going to do another dot on that corner so you can see that those corners have dots. And now we need to go in and do some details. So the reason I drew that dot on the blue tape is because I'm going to play dot to dot. Okay, this is the easiest way to do perspective. So I get my yardstick and I match dot to dot like this. So my ruler or my yardstick is touching the dot up here and then it's lined up with the dot down here. And from that I draw for the roof, I'm going to do a line, a short line like that. Okay, but then I come down to my other dot and I draw another short line like that. Okay, and this is how perspective works. You'll see when I draw the lines in, the vertical slanted lines, you'll start to see that, oh, okay, this is starting to look like it's three-dimensional, but we're using perspective, okay? So now I'm going to line up the yardstick with this dot down to the other dot, and I'm going to draw another line, okay? And so from here, you take your ruler and you are going to line up your ruler with this line so they're parallel, so they're the same distance apart, and you are going to draw a line closing that off. Okay, see that? So see how that goes back in space a little bit? And then from here, you will do, you're going to come in a little bit because this has an overhang and we will draw that in. So from right here, we're going to come in just a tiny bit, do another parallel line right next to this one. Okay, just like that. Oh, and you know what? We need to do a dot to dot here. So really quick, it's not going to show much because of the angle, but I still think that we should draw that in. I'm going to do a line right here, okay? And now you connect those two together like that. Line up your ruler with this dot and come over here, and you're going to line up your ruler over here and you're going to start drawing siding. Okay, now here's the trick. We're going to rotate the ruler a tiny bit at a time, okay? And you want to make sure that each of these lines are about the same distance apart. So just rotate a little bit and just use your eye to kind of watch and make sure that you're making them about the same distance apart. And can you see that? See how these lines match up with that line? Okay, that's the whole point of having the dot down here. So again, bring your ruler back up, make sure it's lined up with the dot, and you're going to continue all the way up with your lines. So it will kind of look like a slanted ladder. All the lines are on a slight slant. Make sure it stays lined up with that dot down here. Just keep watching your ruler. And I'm sure that other artists do things differently. This trick has just worked for me through the years, and I always come back to it. So I think it's an easy way to teach a concept. Okay, and you're going to go all the way up like that. And see how nice that looks? The siding looks really good. So now we want to draw a little bit of an overhang. So I'm just going to do 2 slants like that. And what do you think I do with that line? I line it up with my dot. So again, take the ruler or the yardstick, line it up down here, and draw your line. Okay, and see that overhang for the roof? Now the nice thing about keeping the rooftop level with the canvas is you don't have to worry about having a perspective point. Okay, this is a vanishing point, and you don't need one necessarily when you're drawing straight across. So what we're going to do is draw a horizontal line across here that overhangs, and then come down and do one right here, and then you will come up like that. Okay, now you can start to see how things are coming together. Do the same thing here, draw a slanted line, and then we will come across here like that. And then on the top, again, just line it up with your line at the top of the house and come across here like that. And see how that structure is starting to emerge? Okay, now a trick for the windows. I think you'll like this. So this line is right in the middle of the structure. So I'm going to have you draw a parallel line on the right side and on the left side, and make sure they're equal distance apart. Okay. And let me show you the trick. I'm first going to draw a horizontal line at the top. I want to make sure that my arch at the top is equal. So how I do that, where I have this line here, I'm going to do a quarter of a circle here and a quarter here. And see how those match up. And then the window has another line about right here. Okay, so we have that, and then there's 2 other windows on either side, but they space out a little bit. If you want, you can just freehand this. If you feel you need the ruler, get the ruler out again. But I'm just going to freehand. Okay. Really, the drawing is the most technical part of this painting. It's not going to be too hard after this. Okay, so there's that arch, and then we are going to do another parallel line that lines up with the parallel line from the molding on that window, and then come over here, do the same thing. Okay, and you're going about 3/4 of the way up. And then again, we're doing the same process where you take the ruler, and these windows are slightly smaller, so you can come in a little bit, do a parallel line, make sure those 2 lines match up. Do the same thing over here. Okay, and then my trick, you can either draw a line up from the middle of each one, or you can just look at it and draw it. So either way works. I showed you the other trick though, if you need to use that. But I'm just going to draw a half circle and call it good. Another detail would be molding around those, so go ahead and draw your molding. Draw a diagonal line here, and then come across the top of the roof. Okay, and that just adds a spooky effect. It makes it look like one of those old-fashioned old houses. This line, notice how we made it come out right here? So where we did that, we can do the same thing. Do your diagonal short line, and then take your ruler and draw across there like that. And then also have it come across on this side. Okay, and the more you do, the more haunted it looks. So again, right here, have the overhang come out and do that angle line. And same thing over here, actually. And then draw your line across. And it does take time for me to teach this. I don't want to miss any steps. So yeah, this video will be longer than my other videos, but at least you are getting a very detailed description of how to draw a haunted house or any structure using this type of perspective. If you want, you can erase these lines right here. So we have a vertical line here, and I'm going to have you draw a line across the middle. For this, we need to do an oval. So just draw a half circle here, like that, and then a half circle on this side. But it's more of an elongated half circle so that you get an oval. Okay, and that's our creepy window. And that creepy window has moldings, so make sure you draw the molding around it. So another characteristic of these old houses is they have crown molding. And so come down from this roof line, and I want you to draw a horizontal line coming across like that. Porch, to make it look three-dimensional, since you're kind of lower looking up at the house, you're going to see part of the deck underneath, part of the roof underneath. And so again, draw your dot right here so you can play dot to dot. And line that dot up with this dot down here, and you are going to draw a line going back like that. This house has a lot of trim work. And so really quickly, let's hurry and do another vertical line. Go to the side of that middle section of the house and add, just come in a little bit and add a parallel line to the one on the edge that comes all the way down. And it looks like I was a little bit crooked there, so I'm going to straighten that out for this other line. Okay. And we can do the same thing on the other side. So just take your pencil and add that in. You actually need to do a line right here because you have the porch and then you have a doorway. So bring a ruler up about this far, and we're going to draw a line right here. Okay, and that's for where the door is. And actually go over that molding too. Okay, and then erase the bush inside, these two lines as well. I want you to do a straight line like this, okay, right underneath the roof. From here, we're going to do a half circle like that, and do one on the other side, another half circle. Or do the same thing, except have the line go all the way to the post like that. And then you're going to do almost like, you know, you have a wheel. That's what it looks like. You just carry that shape, that half circle shape around like that for the railing. We need to do the front door, so take your ruler and come in a little bit from this railing right here and draw a straight line down to here. So notice how I lined it up with that half circle. You could do the same thing over here just to make it easy. So line it up with the end of that half circle, and then also make sure it's parallel to that post. Okay, and so there's the front door. Erase just take your ruler and add some trim work to your door. You guys could be builders after this, or at least architects. Something. You will feel like an architect after drawing this. But look how cool this is looking. It really gets me excited that I get to teach you this. Okay, again, trim work. Anywhere that you see or want trim work, you can add it. So there's another one over here. And just those little tiny details of adding trim everywhere, it really helps with the character of this house. So here's another one here you can draw in. There's another one on this side you can draw in. And it actually gives the house more dimension when we start painting. It'll make it look more spooky. The front porch, it actually has a rail, so let's redo that. So draw a parallel line right here, see, just a little bit up from the porch, and do another parallel line above it, like that. Okay, and then turn your ruler vertical and just go in and draw some lines. And I'm going to bring that bush up a little bit more. I just think it's so cool when the house is hidden behind all this shrubbery. Okay. Oh, I love it already. It's so spooky. But let's have this shrubbery kind of come into the porch a little. Okay, we're going to have it come in like that. So it can be kind of front and behind. These old houses always have overgrowth. Okay, and there's another spooky window back here that we need to draw in. So let's do a vertical line once again here, and then you can decide how big you want it, but I think I'm going to bring my ruler about that far over, draw another vertical line, and then round the top. And then I'm actually going to come inside of it to draw the molding this time, just so it doesn't touch the roof line. So go in, draw that molding. Okay, and then looks like there's already a line right here. You can add a parallel line to each of those coming across. And this middle window here, let's draw a line on this side and again on this side, like that. Creepy. The shrubbery comes over here, so we can even cover some of this. Then you don't have to do another window. If you want to do another window, you can. There's going to be a lot of shadows in this area. So all we really need to do now are the shingles and the siding. Siding is easy. You just take your ruler and you're going to do horizontal lines that are equally distanced apart. And then you just go downward. So just make sure you space them properly. You know what, I want a step. Let's do a little step into the door. So just draw another small line right there. We're going to do this dark inside just to make it more creepy so that you don't know what's in there. And the other thing on these, go ahead and fill that in with a line. For this crown molding, you can go in and add a couple of these. So this just adds some character to that crown molding. Oh, we have crown molding right here as well. So come above this window and draw that in. Like that. Okay, for the shingles, have you ever done fish scales? For the horizontal lines, it looks like a wave, okay, like a wave in water. So once you've done that first row, it almost looks like you're decorating a cake. Where it comes to a point, you're going to add the next bulge out. Okay, see that half circle? So wherever there's a point, there's a half circle underneath that point. And you have to remember that for the whole entire time that you're doing this. Okay, and that way it just offsets the pattern. So on this side, I want you to line up your ruler again with that dot on your tape and just come down and draw a line before we do the fish scales, just so that you get it right. That way, as you do your fish scales, it's going to be in the right perspective, okay? So you follow that line, all right? Okay, one other thing I noticed that we missed is a window over here. So let's come in a little bit and do a vertical line right here, and then just add molding around it again. Make sure you draw your lines up here too on these windows. This middle section of each of the windows, they line up with each other, so it should look something like that. And it's okay if you want to go in and shade each window just so that you see it better when you start painting. You can take your pencil and just go in and just shade that in. And if you don't want to paint this with acrylics and you just want to go in and color it with colored pencil, you can do that. There's so many options. If you want, you can also add kind of a creepy pathway. I just think it helps add the effect of creepy. I want to do a moon over here. So just take your pencil and go in and loosely go around and around. The reason I say go, draw loosely is eventually you get a circle. When you try and do it perfectly, you never get it. But when you do it loosely like this, usually it turns out perfect. Okay, and then before we add other trees and stuff over here, I thought that we would paint it, and then I can show you how to do those additional details. And now we have the drawing portion completed. We are going to use cool tones to paint the haunted house. So I'm going to take this smaller square brush or flat brush and dip it in the gloss gel medium and then also in your white, and just take that and go to your moon and just swirl around and around. And we're going to make this moon look like it's glowing, and so now what you do with that, stick your brush in the water so it doesn't dry out while we work on the moon some more with a different brush. I want you to dip your tiny fine tip brush into the gel medium retarder and then into the ocean green. And you're going to take that ocean green and you're going to go around the moon. So now that that is done, you can take your square brush and then just go around and blend those two colors into each other until it has kind of a glowing effect. But it's not going to look like it's glowing until you do the outer color. So let's take the lightest shade that we mixed and we're going to paint around the moon. I want you to take more of that ocean green. You're going to get a little bit heavier this time. And you are going to paint on the outside of what we already painted. So the outside of the white part of the moon. Set your brush down and take your fine tip brush and just use that to blend that together. See how I blend around? This is what makes it look like it's glowing. You have the white, and then you go from white to this lighter blue, and then the lighter blue fades into darker blue. Okay. And you really want to do a good job with the moon itself, the white part, and blending that. Really, that's the most important part because it has to look like it's glowing. You don't want any sharp lines around there. So rinse your brush and then take your flat brush again and just get some gel, some gloss gel medium on there, and then go around and blend in that blue. You want the sky to look creepy, and so the more colors you use and the more chaotic you make it look, the better. Just make sure that you are careful around the edges of your house. Okay, so if you come right up against the edge, just make sure that you do a straight line. I'm going to put it on time lapse so you can watch me continue to do that. But just basically make sure that none of the white underneath, white of the canvas, shows up. So you want to cover all of that. I'm going to show you the colors that we'll need for the haunted house and the roof, and it's very similar to the colors that we use for the sky. So here I have the pale blue, I have the lake blue, the silver, the ocean green, and the titanium white. Over here is the ivory black, and of course the gloss gel medium. So we need a really dark shadow. Take that ivory black and a little bit of your darker blue, your lake blue, and mix those together. Now the darkest shadows will obviously be black, but then the next shade to the black, you want to have a little blue and it will be gray. Okay, swipe your palette knife and now mix the pale blue. And then swipe your palette knife and mix silver into that. You get a really nice metallic blue color. You have to keep in mind that this haunted house is in the dark and it has the moon shining on it, and so we want a lot of blues and grays. Okay, so here I took the ocean green and I mixed it with the paint that I mixed over here when I swiped my palette knife. Okay, and then take that color, swipe it, take titanium white, and mix that together and you get a really light, icy color. Okay, and that should be good enough for now. You can mix more colors as you go along. But let me demonstrate how to begin your haunted house. So take your fine tip brush and you are going to dip it in the gloss gel medium and then into your black, your ivory black. And I want you to come across the top of the roof line with the black and go as straight as you can. Now I'll put it on time lapse so that we can just do it really, really fast. Next, I want you to take that dark gray color, mix your gel gloss medium, and I want you to come across right underneath, actually right in the middle of that black, and just stroke all the way across like this. And what it does is it just lightens up the black towards the bottom so that you go from a darker shade to a lighter shade. And it's not that much lighter, but it still helps to add some depth. You can do a really dark line underneath. And then the next step I'm going to show you, and we will put it on time lapse after because you're going to do this entire area using that process. But take that fine tip brush and I want you to outline the shingles like this, like you're drawing with a pen. And while your paint is still wet, you are going to take the blue, so the medium blue that we mixed, and go in there, paint inside each shingle. And you have to do it fast, you have to work quickly. And then you blend the edges into it. Okay, so see how I'm blending as I go? And you don't want any white showing through. However, we can add some highlights when we're done. But for now, we're just getting the pattern of the shingles established. And so I want you to continue with that process all the way across and down. You can go darker over here, so rather than using this lighter blue, you can use the dark gray in this area because there's a shadow cast from this part of the house onto the roof. So notice how I painted a dark line underneath the shingles. You want to have a shadow there, and then below that I want you to take that silver shade, the lighter silver shade that we mixed, and paint that across here, but then have it get darker as you go back toward the house on the right side. So you'll just have that fade. So you can take the darker gray and start to blend that in. And then underneath that, I want you to do another dark line with the black. And see how that starts to stand out because you have the contrast of the light and the dark. And then the other thing, right up along here, you also want a shadow. And that's what will help your house to look more realistic. Paint all of the shingles and then use that same concept for the trim work on the edges of the roof. And you'll do that above, on the sides, below, and then we can finish with everything else. But also do this area too, because acrylics dry fast and we might as well use all the colors that we mixed before we start in another area. Before we finish the rest of the house, over here in this right corner, we should add a spooky tree. So take the gloss gel medium and your paintbrush, dip it in black paint, and I want you to start out with the trunk. Okay, and then just make sure that your brush stays really wet, so you can dip it in water and add a little water to your paint if you need to. Okay, and you want that trunk to be nice and dark so that it stands out against the moon. Okay, and we're going to have it be back behind the house. So just make sure it doesn't overlap the house. Go back behind. And what this will do is it will just give a scary feeling or scary mood to your painting to make it more creepy for Halloween. Okay, again, keep that brush really wet. And you can even go up over the moon. Okay, and so what you'll do is you'll just branch out several times from each individual branch. And the more you add, the more creepy it will be. So just keep that in mind. And make sure you use your fine tip brush. What I did is I got light green and turquoise green, raw umber, ivory black, and then we have cobalt blue, and then we're going to use our white as well. So we want to do some leaves that, you know, on the tree that have a hint of green mixed with brown. And then we also want to take some black, and I'm going to put that over here. And then this time go ahead and wipe your palette knife off, and then take the light green right here, and I want you to add some brown just to tone it down a little bit so it's not quite so bright. And then take some titanium white and come over here, mix those together, add more of the light green. Okay, and then take some ivory black and some blue, some cobalt blue, mix those together. And here we have some great colors to begin painting the shrubbery around the house. For the shrubbery, you will need your bigger paintbrush to start out. And I'm going to take the darker shade of green, and I'm going to start applying it heavily along here. Okay, and see how you can see that green in there? That's what you want. You just want some other colors besides the blues and the grays that we've been doing. Otherwise it starts to get kind of boring to look at. But take that brush and stipple up in here. We really want this to look spooky, and so I'm just taking this brush and just lightly coming in here and almost surrounding the house with this scary, gloomy tree. Okay, and you can go over the branches of the other tree because this tree is in front. As you come closer to the house, you can use that lighter green that's slightly lighter. Okay, you can start to see that in there. Use the corner of your brush at this point. It looks really, really good when you come over onto the roof a little. And just keep building your colors like I am. And you can paint around the edge of your canvas too. Just bring that color clear over. And see how on the tips you can see the light highlights on the leaves. You can also do a little bit of blue if you want. So you can take that, and you don't want to do it heavily. So just apply a little bit of paint and then take your brush and stipple that on. And stipple in here as well. You can do deep navy blue down here. It's kind of nice when it can get darker and darker towards the bottom. So just go back and forth from shade to shade. Lighter over to the right and darker towards the left. And then one other thing, if you take your brush that's slightly smaller, so this one, you can take navy blue or even ivory black and come in here behind the green. And this is what I mean by saying you can start to paint abstract on the house. I kind of feel like the abstract will help it look even more realistic. And so if we go in there and we just start painting more loosely, it actually will make it look more creepy. Okay, so we can come in here, go up alongside there. In fact, if you just shade this whole area right here, I can show you how to do the siding over the black. And also you will want some dark shadows over here that extend onto the house as well. And then just stipple back in here to tie it together. Take your fine tip brush again, and you're basically going to dip it in the blue that we had before. If it's dry, just remix. Just reblend your paint. And take your paintbrush, and we're just going to show a hint of that siding, okay? I feel like if we are more abstract, it's going to look better. I don't like it to look cartoony, and so this is just a way to get past that cartoon feel. So the structure is still in place, but we're just making it more creepy. All right, and then on this side of the house, let's go ahead and do the same thing. Just start with black right here. So on the left side of that, we're going to add those lines, okay? And you're thinking, well, why did I draw them? Well, that's so that you can learn perspective, and then also it was a guide to help you with this process. So see how much more creepy that looks? If you wanted to, you could even add a hint of brown back in here. Tone down that blue. Down at the bottom, let's make the ground a spooky blue. So you're going to take that green that you already painted, you might have to get more on it, and kind of blend it into that blue. We're going to make that ground just really eerie looking by adding that blue in there. So yeah, sometimes it doesn't hurt to do a painterly style. actually can add to a painting. See how that made that suddenly look really creepy? And the rest of the house, we can do more of that. So get your green and do the same thing that we did over here. We're just going to surround the house, and I think that's going to help us as we start painting the rest of the house, just to have a guide of where that shrubbery will be, where the shadows will be. So just keep working your way down, getting darker and darker as you go, and then turn blue again. So now that we've done the abstract style and added the darks and then the lights and the highlights over the dark, here we did light with dark over, and also having the shrubbery and the trees come up over the house a little bit, it just helped to tone everything down, and I feel like it looks even better. So what I'm going to have you do is continue with the abstract style, so do the windows dark, and then you can add some of these highlights like I did here in the doorway and this window. This window still needs it. And then when you're doing the siding right here, same thing, just do a solid black color and then highlight with the blues. I feel like this will help you get it done quickly. You can do it slower like we did the shingles on the roof, but it will take you a lot longer, and I don't think that in the end, if you did the whole thing like this, it wouldn't look as realistic. This is also a really good brush that you can use. It's an angled brush, and I highly recommend this for when you're doing the windows and these sharp edges. You can even add a creepy ghost in the doorway. I really hope you enjoyed this project today. It was definitely one of my very, very favorites. Be sure to like and subscribe, and